Bloomberg Audio Studios.
Podcasts, radio, news.
This is the Bloomberg Surveillance Podcast. Catch us live weekdays at 7 a.m. Eastern on Apple CarPlay or Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app. Listen on demand wherever you get your podcasts or watch us live on YouTube.
Tina Fordham has been a huge benefit to us, geopolitical strategist, Fordham Global Foresight. Tina, just a window into this. How did you end up with Ibrahim Rabari? The guy is a AAA horse at Citigroup. He's out there. How did you and Ibrahim Rabari get together?
Well, Ibrahim and I worked together on Willem Bouter's global macro team, and it is our immense good fortune to have him working with us as a senior advisor. So I'm absolutely thrilled.
Just absolutely wonderful. I want to take a bigger, broader approach here. And you go into the wonderful work up at Harvard, the book, folks. It really became part of international relations, How Democracies Die. Stephen Levitsky and Daniel Ziblatt up at Harvard, and you pick up their phrase, norm erosion, and say we're living it. What norm erosion, Tina Fordham, are we going to see next year?
Well, we're already seeing it, and this is part of my, my pledge to try to prevent us from seeing all of these, disparate developments as idiosyncratic and one-off. Norm erosion can be everything from why our nieces and nephews don't send us thank you notes for Christmas presents, to the role of unelected advisors in the White House, to the end of kind of customs. Norms are not necessarily rules, they're certainly not laws. And I'm going to argue that they matter as much to our ability to conduct business as laws do.
So for 2025, Tina, given norm erosion, geopolitical denialism is another theme I know you're focused on. What are your themes for 2025 for investors as they think about geopolitics and the impact on markets?
I'm not sure how many investors want to think about geopolitics because we've already seen the euphoria, now tempered to focus on the positive aspects of Trump's agenda, deregulation, and these are no doubt going to be positive. They're going to be especially positive for U.S. markets. But as you know, I'm based in London. I have coined the concept of geopolitical denialism, borrowing a little bit from climate denialism, and I'm suggesting that this is like being a flat earther when it comes to thinking about geopolitics, because take the example of Syria, not a market-moving event, nor would one that we would expect to be, but it's the second and third order effects of geopolitics that matter. So times are good in U.S. markets, but I'm suggesting developments like Trump's recent comments, shall we say, questioning the validity of Greenland belonging to Denmark and the Panama Canal belonging to Panama are important. They are significant. They're not going to move markets, but they are extremely important because they suggest challenges to the rules of the game, and indeed something potentially more significant. And there are also big geostrategic implications. Those are not two random choices.
So if for investors and just markets in general, does that suggest over the next year, if not 4 years, maybe investors kind of rein in some of the risk taking because some of the geopolitics maybe emanating from the U.S. White House could be, really problematic?
I think you're going to see a lot of changes in stance, a lot of developments that may be more behind the scenes than, say, an event risk like a terrorist attack or a hot war. What would the U.S. need to do to, as Trump would put it, regain control of the Panama Canal? Could this be done through non-military means? I think looking at what military strategists call gray zone actions, which can be commercial, they can be legal, and through kind of salami tactics, can really change the facts on the ground. Right now, Russia and China have made clear that they don't believe that U.S. hegemony should continue, and what means will they use for that? And it may be more important to your question for, our CEO clients, for anyone with a complex supply chain, but these are big, great power challenges being played out through these small places.
Tina Fordham with us, Fordham Global Foresight here as we look at international relations into next year. Tina, just a question that came up this weekend. I think as an amateur, I'm saying there's a presidential tradition of giving ambassadors to people that gave you a lot of money to get elected. I get it, and all that. How do you as a grizzled pro respond to the ambassador selections we're seeing from President-elect Trump? We got a football player in the Bahamas. We got a father-in-law, son-in-law kind of thing in Paris, and on and on. How do you respond? Is it just business as usual, or is there something different going on in our ambassadorships?
First of all, I would like to reject the characterization of myself as grizzled on anything. Pro, yes.
I misspoke.
Grizzled.
Okay.
You can.
Yeah,
we
Lisa.
Can pick that up later.
Tina, I said it, and Lisa threw a gluten-free roll at me, so you're okay. Continue.
Thank you, Lisa. We have to stick up for each other. But all right. So what's the skinny on that? There's a lot of eye rolling going on. The expectation is that UK-US and France-US and German-US relations, will continue even if there is someone less than a grizzled old pro in the ambassadorship. It hasn't always been the case, by the way, that donors were awarded these plum kinds of posts. I mean, I'm thinking about people like Pamela Harriman in Paris and others. But Europe is not pushing back on any of this and, taking a stoic approach. Because you have to choose your battles. Everyone wants to work with this administration, and we will see just how robust the relationships are and the channels of communication and the areas of cooperation.
Tina, as we kind of think about 2025, what's maybe the key question you're getting from your clients these days about your remit, which is, again, geopolitics?
It couldn't be more broad. It is what's going to happen, because, again, at the, purely at the market level, everyone, buys the positive story, but there's a lot of worry about what could possibly go wrong. And even, tracking and monitoring risks as we do, there are so many wild cards, and that's, got to be part of the playbook here to kind of sow discontent and confusion. I'm looking a lot at these small data points developments that don't grab headlines, like, why is the Slovak President Robert Fico in Moscow? Hello? That is not something that the European Union agrees with. It's not a game changer in the narrowest sense, but when you combine that with Hungarian President Viktor Orban, seeing Putin, what's been happening in Romania, none of these, major economies, it adds up to leverage that Putin has, though, because these countries are all on the receiving end, or were, of Russian gas supplies. So if we wait until a full-blown event risk transpires, then we're not prepared for these downside surprises.
Tina, thank you so much. Tina Fordham with us, Fordham Global Foresight.
You're listening to the Bloomberg Surveillance Podcast. Catch us live weekday afternoons from 7 to 10 a.m. Eastern. Listen on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app. Or watch us live on YouTube.
We're thrilled to get smarter with Andrew Slimmon, head of, Applied Equity Advisors. I have no idea what that is at Morgan Stanley. What Andrew Slimmon will give you is the courage to participate in the market. Andrew, how do we get to a third double-digit bull market year?
Well, I think you have a combination of lower rates, $7 trillion sitting in the money markets that will search for a new home, or some of it will, and pro-growth policies. And that's how you could get to another double-digit year for the equity market.
I look at it, and it's double-digit earnings here. Gino Martin-Adams at Bloomberg Intelligence talking up 14%. Maybe it comes down. Do the security analysts at Morgan Stanley get you to a double-digit earnings growth year?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, Tom, that, I've been on your show a lot. I've been always pretty optimistic the last couple of years is that it's not about valuation, it's about the direction of the change. And what's, I tell, especially younger investors all the time, be very wary of pure valuation tools as a methodology to evaluate the stock market or a stock is cheap or expensive, because sometimes analysts don't get the denominator, the estimate right. And really what's been going on the last couple of years is earnings have been stronger than what is expected. So far, I've seen a lot of predictions that earnings are too strong for next year, but I haven't seen those numbers come down yet. And that falls into the positive camp.
I mean, Paul, that's the Andrew Slimmon says, look, you got to participate.
Yeah.
Go to cash.
Yeah,
it's not going to work. Next.
Not going to work. Hey, Andrew, we've got the Fed cutting rates, but now it looks like in 2025 at a slower pace than maybe the market had been anticipating. How does that impact your view of the equity markets in 2025?
I think this is good news.
Good news.
And let me articulate why. What I have been worried about is if you look at what's worked since July, when the Fed said they're going to start to cut rate, what has worked in the market is the low quality, what I would call junk growth stocks. A lot of companies that don't, have high revenue estimates but no earnings or very little earnings, very high multiples. The more risk you have taken in the last 6 months, the better you have done. And that scares me, because that screams of the year 2021, and we know what happened in 2022. The market fell apart. So to the extent that I think the Fed has kind of encouraged that risk-taking by saying, hey, we're going to cut rates, if they say, hey, you know what, we're going to go a little slower, good, rates going up, that takes the heat out of the bubble that I think is occurring in these speculative stocks. Right. I think that's healthy for the stock market. In many ways might extend the bull market longer than just 2025.
Right. Andrew Slimmon with us, and we will continue with him. He's with Morgan Stanley, of course. We welcome all of you across the nation. If you're working, if you're computing, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, of course, Sirius XM, Channel 121. Good morning on Bloomberg Television worldwide and on YouTube, all of our distribution on YouTube. Subscribe to Bloomberg Podcasts. It's the only way to observe Lisa Mateo. It's a constructive exercise, to say the least. Andrew Slimmon, last week we had in the giant of free cash flow. You and I read Free Cash Flow and Shareholder Yield with William Priest of Epic. It was iconic then. How do you study free cash flow in this great bull market? What's the Slimmon method?
Well, I mean, it's interesting. I hear a lot of people come on shows like this and talk about how you have to have expansion beyond the Mag 7 and how it's dangerous that these stocks are very high weighting the S&P. And I certainly agree with that. But at the end of the day, these are the companies, if I look at what's worked year to date from a kind of factor standpoint, corporate buybacks. Companies that are buying back stock aggressively have in general outperformed, and that's the big boys. So to the extent that your question about cash flow, I look and say, well, what companies are generating a lot of cash flow? It's some of the best are these really big companies. So I think one of the most consensus trades for next year is that the market's going to expand beyond the Mag 7, and I think there's plenty of good ideas beyond Mag 7, but you have to face the reality. These companies are generating a lot of cash flow, and they're buying back stock, and that is positive. That's a big difference, Tom, to 1999, 2000.
Andrew, thank you so much. Andrew Slimmon with us, Morgan Stanley, here this morning on the courage to stay in the market.
This is the Bloomberg Surveillance Podcast. Listen live each weekday starting at 7 a.m. Eastern on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app. You can also listen live on Amazon Alexa from our flagship New York station. Just say, Alexa, play Bloomberg 1130.
Right now, and this is an immense honor, Dana Telsey scheduled to join us on the holiday, but we must pause for the end of an era. Nordstrom's Always and Forever of Seattle will go private. This on the same day as a Container Store files for bankruptcy. Lisa Mateo had that story earlier. And the emotion of a family running a store defines Dana Telsey as no one else on the island of Manhattan. She was intimately involved with a small store at 57th Street at Fifth Avenue, name of Bergdorf Goodman, as a child. Dana, the emotion of a family running retail, and then it's over. Describe your thoughts as you hear of the privatization of Nordstrom.
A couple things. So first of all, Tom, thank you very much for having me, and it's an honor to be here with you, and happy holidays to you and your family. And you're right, exactly. The privatization of a family-run business that's been around for over 100 years is definitely a spark of change. I think the new environment today is different than it was in the past, and you have to give Nordstrom credit for all that it's accomplished. But the go-forward environment requires big changes, and whether it is a reduction in the number of full-line stores they have, the acceleration of what may be for the rack, the continuous pursuit of new and curated brands in their assortment, and
Right.
for all what we know about Nordstrom, the service element and the loyal customers they have is something that needs to be expanded and accelerated go forward after all that they've accomplished.
For Nordstrom and for your Bergdorf Goodman, and as Joe Feldman at Telsey Advisory Group covers big box, what are customers choosing to do this holiday season?
Well, this holiday season, I think overall continues to be about innovation and newness. You look at Birkenstock, who had very good sales increases in their own stores and wholesale stores. That's newness and differentiation with their closed-toed shoes. I'm thinking of other winners, and you take a look, frankly, at Lululemon, where the newness in colors is driving demand. We're still not seeing the luxury world see any real acceleration. There are certain brands that certainly the super upper end, like Hermes, that's always different than everyone else. But what people are searching for and where they're going continues to be value, particularly at the lower and middle income tier. Whether it be at TJ Maxx, whether it be at Walmart, that's where we're seeing certainly some of the strength lately.
So, Dana, what are some of the retailers that you follow and have followed for such a long time? What are they telling you about this holiday shopping season this year?
Compressed holiday season is a factor. You're seeing 5 fewer days between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Consumers started earlier. There were promotions that began earlier, but the state of promotions isn't greater than what was expected. The other thing that happened with Christmas on a Wednesday, the digital shopping days where you can get even same-day delivery that many companies are putting in place with DoorDash, and you only have one more day to be able to take advantage of that.
Anything kind of jumping out as the go-to gift this year? I know some years we've definitely had those types of stories. Is this one of those years?
I think it's a little bit wider spread. I think, keep in mind, we've had Taylor Swift's concert ending, but Target had the Book of the Eras tour. You have the closed-toed Birkin shoes that basically happen to be very popular. And if you're into denim jeans, barrel leg jeans are what it's all about. And you're still seeing newness in cosmetics occur, and I think that's some of the independent brands that are driving demand.
Yeah, I noticed that the fam was at Ulta and Sephora. It was a double-digit day. Dana, I got a $9,950 jacket over at Chanel. And the news here, and I think of, The Devil Wears Prada, where Meryl Streep walks in and throws the purses and the bags and all the fanciness. Matthew Blazy, I know I'm butchering the name, but the guy from Bottega Veneta goes over to quote-unquote save Chanel. What does that signal to you that something as iconic as Coco Chanel's franchise needs saving?
Well, keep in mind, ever since Karl Lagerfeld passed away, who was the icon of the Chanel brand, and you had his long-standing colleague basically take over for the past few years, you need to have a marker. And I think what we've seen this year is many brands are getting new designers. Obviously, you've had things happen at Gucci, which it's needed to happen. We have changes going on at other of LV's brands with the whole change in leadership that's occurring. And I've always believed that typically for many, it's 15 years that a designer has the eye of the consumer and that their eye doesn't get tired of the brand. Karl Lagerfeld did it much longer, and I don't see anyone else like him out there.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
Dana, the holiday season here, and I got all these gloom articles out about retail, and yet we're still aspirational. After the pandemic, have we changed as consumption beasts?
No, I think we're always going to be consumption beasts. And you know why? There's a point of excitement and socialization that consumption brings. And look what we're seeing in terms of discretionary spend, where could 2025 see resumption of acceleration of discretionary spend? Think of what we've seen in 2024, where old brands becoming new again, where the cultural relevance of Gap taking hold. And is Victoria's Secret going to be a name for 2025, given the lines we've seen so far in 2024, with the arrival of Hillary Super as CEO in September of 24?
Dana, great article out on the Bloomberg terminal entitled "Kirkland for Christmas. Shoppers Ditch Logos for Store Brands." I didn't know that was a thing. What are you seeing out there?
I think overall, when you think about private label and store brands, there's no one more successful in the essentials world than Costco's Kirkland's. And one of the interesting things about their own brand there, everyone knows the name. So yes, store brands matter. You're even seeing some of the department stores and apparel looking to activate and enhance their own private label brands. It's also value, and that it typically has a lower price than any regular brands.
You got Joe has an outperform on Costco. Costco to the moon, Dana.
You know what? A competitive moat that can scale.
Okay.
Think of what Costco has: more stores, more products, more customers, and really loyal members.
Dana, we finished strong here today. Thank you so much for your perspective, particularly on JW Nordstrom. They will go private after a decade of price decline, to say the least.
This is the Bloomberg Surveillance Podcast. Listen live each weekday starting at 7 a.m. Eastern on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app. You can also watch us live every weekday on YouTube and always on the Bloomberg terminal.
Your daily look at the front pages around the world, the Lisa Mateo week, we call it. Lisa, what do you have?
I have all the scams that are happening this holiday season to steal your money. I don't know if you've gotten some of those weird text messages, like click the link, all that kind of stuff. Well, they're using AI to do a lot of this stuff, and that's why you see it a lot more this season. They're doing the text messages, right? The baiting victims to write programs, testing huge volumes of stolen credit card information. They're helping scammers generate fake online ads, so you're seeing more online ads. So the fake ones to click the link and then they steal your credit card information. They're using AI to impersonate account holders, so they're pretending to be you so that they can get your access to different accounts. So they're doing that too. And then they're also asking for video selfies, because then they can use that to get access to different things, because people are just sending them in. Because if you get locked out sometimes of your account, you need to send, a video selfie.
And they're faking to be
and
banks.
They're faking all this.
New.
And the banks are putting money using AI to help fight this, but yet it's happening so fast.
It's really picked up. It's a really serious thing.
I just send money to people who they're buying oil. That's I'm pretty comfortable doing that. So.
But it's gone. We're a long way, Lisa, from emails from Nigeria.
Right.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah.
The code thingies, the kids use the code. Mm-hmm. I don't do that ever anymore, because they put the sticker that looks just like the code you think you're doing, and it's not. It's like a scam. So I never do the code thing anymore, ever.
Yeah, it's tough. And especially this time you see a lot of the, your package is being held and everyone has packages at the door. That's another scam.
One of our interns, he's like 23, Ari just nailed that.
Yeah.
The QR code, you old fossil. Right.
Next. I'm sitting here, I'm going,
Ari, have some more eggnog. Next.
The QR code. Now I got you. Okay, Apple is considering something. You have the Ring, right? That's what a lot of people have, the doorbell. When you come in there, so they have that. But now Apple wants to challenge that with their smart doorbell that will actually unlock the door with your face. So instead of the keys or punching in the numbers sometimes people have, you just put your face up to it and then your door would unlock and you can go inside. So that's something that Apple could be working on, this from Bloomberg, into the new year. So it's a new way to get into your house. But they're trying different things. Like Apple's trying to catch up. Remember the whole, car they tried doing just fell apart.
Do we want this?
I don't.
Do you have Alexa, we're going to Costco. Does the Mateo house have that?
I do not have Alexa. No, I don't. But this is, I don't know. It seems like it would make getting into your house easier, but it's kind of scary too at the same time. Yeah. I don't know.
So if the nanny's locked outside with 2 dogs and needs to get in, she can't get in because it's my ugly face. I don't get
unless you add the nanny to,
What do you think, Paul?
the security list.
I'll stick with my key.
You'll stick with your
fine.
key? Yeah. I can bumble with the packages and do all that at the same time
Next.
with the key. Okay, New York City's new secret weapon in the war on rats. It is a dog named Katie, okay? Katie is a 4-year-old, 12.5-pound mutt. She's part Chihuahua, part pug, part rat terrier. And her owner says that she takes her out. This is in around Prospect Park, where they say they don't have a lot of rats, but apparently they do because Katie sniffs them out, snatches them up in her jaw, cracks their neck, then the owner takes them and dumps them in a garbage can. So here's the thing. In 2023, Katie bagged about 115 rats.
Really?
About a week ago to this year, she has a week left, closing in on 500. So this dog has been doing a lot of stuff, I guess, around the area. Prospect Park, Park Slope, Gowanus. Her most productive week is Thursday for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe that's when the rats come out and play. But the owner says sometimes she does get, little scratches and things like that. But she does get her vaccinated so that she won't get sick if she does get bit by the rats. But I don't know. It
Serious
just goes
stuff.
to show you how bad the rat problem is
And
in
there's
New
a
York City.
color-coded Google map titled Katie's Rats 2024. So you can follow her as she goes around in her duties. Okay.
Yeah.
Got one more for us?
I do. Okay, so this is, if you have kids listening in the background for any reason, just earmuffs, okay? I'll give you a couple minutes, okay? All right, here we go. Holiday fixture, the elf on the shelf. This is what a lot of parents do. I remember doing it with my kids. It's meant to keep an eye on the shelf. You have this little elf, and every night the elf goes back to Santa, tells him who's been good or bad, gives him the full breakdown, and then comes back. This is all before Christmas. This is the story, okay? So parents have been, they have to figure out a different storyline every day, and it's a lot of work because they have to move the elf, and if you forget, then the kid's going to ask, why didn't the elf move? It's this whole big thing. So now a lot of parents are starting to say, you know what? I'm sick of the elf. I'm not doing it. And now what they have to do is explain to their kids why the elf isn't coming to their house. This is like this whole drawn out drama because all the other kids have the elf. So, Mommy, how come my elf is not coming to my house?
Am I lucky that I missed this?
You are lucky because it's a lot of work. It just started when my kids were, younger, but now it's become a social media thing. So now people are posting all, the different funny things they're doing with the elf, the next day. And it's become this huge responsibility for them to do. And
I got the tree,
I just
the
don't
stockings,
have the patience for that.
I'm good, All right.
But it's the elf on the shelf. I actually have, since my kids are older, I have Snoop on the stoop. Snoop Dogg has one. So I use that in my house. Snoop on the stoop.
Wait a minute. We got to go around. I have a real tree. You don't have a real tree.
No, I have the fake tree. Yes, I put it up.
You have a real
You
tree.
do the real?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank God for that.
Yep.
Yes,
So
yes.
okay.
It's a lot of work. Parents are stressed out enough as it is, and they say they don't need this extra burden on their hands.
When we do this tomorrow, find an eggnog story.
Thank you, I will.
Lisa Mateo, thank you so much. The newspapers here, and of course, across the nation for all of you as well.
This is the Bloomberg Surveillance Podcast, available on Apple, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. Listen live each weekday, 7 to 10 a.m. Eastern on Bloomberg.com, the iHeartRadio app, TuneIn, and the Bloomberg Business app. You can also watch us live every weekday on YouTube and always on the Bloomberg Terminal.